The combat sports world, a realm accustomed to seismic shifts and sudden upheavals, was blindsided. Not by a knockout, not by a title change, but by a flash flood of headlines that threatened to drown the very fabric of its current narrative. In the blink of an eye, the seemingly invincible, the newly crowned, the outspoken featherweight king, Ilia Topuria, was plunged into a maelstrom of legal jeopardy. Reports erupted like wildfire across every digital platform, fueled by grainy cell phone footage and breathless eyewitness accounts. Ilia Topuria arrested! The sheer audacity of the news sent shockwaves, instantly eclipsing every other story, every fight announcement, every triumphant highlight. This wasn't just a rumor, it was a public spectacle, unfolding in real time on the streets of a major city, culminating in the image of a champion, head bowed, escorted by law enforcement. The details, initially fragmented and swirling with speculation, quickly coalesced around a massive lawsuit, an unprecedented legal challenge threatening not only his freedom, but his championship reign and meticulously crafted legacy. Allegations of aggravated assault stemming from a heated public altercation, coupled with a staggering multi-million-dollar breach of contract claim from a former associate, painted a grim picture. The El Matador persona, forged in the crucible of elite competition, suddenly seemed fragile, vulnerable. Fans, pundits, and fellow fighters watched in disbelief as the man who had promised to dominate the UFC for years found himself in an entirely different kind of fight, one he couldn't win with a knockout punch. The question on everyone's lips was chillingly clear. How could a star of his magnitude fall so spectacularly, so swiftly? And more critically, what did this mean for the future of the featherweight division, and indeed the entire sport? The arrest wasn't just a momentary scandal, it was a paradigm shift, an immediate and undeniable rupture in the carefully constructed reality of professional fighting. The silence that followed the initial explosion of noise was deafening, a testament to the profound uncertainty that now gripped the hearts of millions. This was more than just breaking news. It was a crisis, a defining moment that promised to reshape everything we thought we knew about power, fame, and accountability in the brutal world of combat sports. And just as this narrative began to consume global attention, another headline, equally audacious, began to quietly surface, waiting in the wings to further complicate an already chaotic landscape. To understand the gravity of Topuria's current predicament, one must first appreciate the meteoric trajectory that launched him into superstardom. Ilia El Matador Topuria was not merely a fighter, he was a phenomenon, a force of nature whose ascent was as swift as it was brutal. Born in Germany, raised in Georgia and Spain, Topuria embodied a unique blend of European grit and Latin swagger. His record was unblemished, a perfect symphony of destruction that left a trail of elite contenders in his wake. Every fight was a masterclass in calculated aggression, every victory punctuated by a chilling self-assurance that bordered on prophecy. He didn't just win, he dominated, he dismantled, he declared his destiny with an unwavering conviction that captivated audiences worldwide. From his early days in regional promotions to his stunning knockout of a legendary champion, Topuria's journey was a testament to relentless ambition and unparalleled skill. His trash talk, often audacious and unapologetic, wasn't just bluster, it was a psychological weapon, a self-fulfilling prophecy delivered with a smirk and an icy stare. He promised knockouts, and he delivered them. He promised the belt, and he seized it. This unwavering self-belief, this unshakable confidence became his brand, his identity. It endeared him to millions, while simultaneously making him a polarizing figure, a target for those who saw his arrogance as a challenge. He reveled in the spotlight, thriving on the pressure, seemingly impervious to doubt or external criticism. The championship belt around his waist felt less like an accomplishment and more like an inevitable coronation, a destiny he had meticulously sculpted with every perfectly timed punch and every calculated verbal jab. He spoke of an era, his era, one where he would redefine the featherweight division, a reign built on dominance and an untouchable aura. He was perceived as unstoppable, a fighter whose mental fortitude matched his physical prowess. His training regimen was legendary, his focus absolute. He was a champion in every sense of the word, a marketable superstar with a global appeal, poised to carry the UFC into a new era. Yet it's precisely this elevated platform, this fiercely guarded image of invincibility, that now makes his fall from grace so profoundly impactful. The higher the pedestal,
the harder the crash. His persona, once his greatest strength, now serves as a stark contrast to the grim reality of his arrest, raising uncomfortable questions about the man behind the relentless Matador facade and the pressures that come with inhabiting such an exalted yet precarious position in the cutthroat world of professional sports.
The initial shock of Topuria's arrest quickly gave way to a deluge of complex legalities, revealing a lawsuit far more intricate and potentially devastating than initially conceived. What began as a street-level altercation now appears to be merely the tip of an iceberg, exposing deep-seated grievances and a colossal breach of contract dispute. The core of the legal battle centers on two primary accusations: aggravated assault and a multi-million-dollar contractual interference claim. The assault charge, stemming from what sources describe as a volatile incident outside a prominent entertainment venue, allegedly involved Topuria and a former business associate. While details remain officially scarce, leaked witness statements hint at a significant physical confrontation, leaving the alleged victim with considerable injuries, now documented in police reports and medical records. The implications for Topuria are immediate and severe, potentially leading to criminal charges that could jeopardize his visa status, his ability to travel internationally for fights, and ultimately his freedom. But perhaps even more damaging, particularly for his career, is the civil lawsuit for breach of contract. This separate but now intertwined action alleges that Topuria unilaterally severed ties with a crucial endorsement partner and management group, violating a meticulously drafted multi-year agreement worth tens of millions of dollars. This wasn't just a handshake deal, it was a complex partnership involving image rights, future fight negotiations, and significant financial investments. The plaintiffs claim that Topuria's abrupt departure, allegedly fueled by new, more lucrative offers, constituted a flagrant disregard for contractual obligations, causing immense financial damages and reputational harm to their organization. Legal experts are calling it an unprecedented situation for a reigning UFC champion. The confluence of a serious criminal charge and a massive civil breach of contract lawsuit creates a perfect storm, explained legal analyst Dr. Elena Ramirez during a recent broadcast. Even if the criminal charges are reduced or dismissed, the civil case could drag on for years, tying up his assets, tarnishing his image, and making him virtually uninsurable for high-value endorsements. This isn't just about winning a fight, it's about potentially losing everything he's built. The public reaction has been equally intense, oscillating between fervent support for their champion and scathing criticism, with many questioning Topuria's judgment and character outside the octagon. Social media is ablaze with theories. Was he provoked? Is this a calculated smear campaign? Or has the immense pressure and newfound fame finally taken its toll, exposing a darker side to El Matador that even his most ardent fans never suspected? The lawsuit isn't just a legal challenge, it's a profound test of character, a public trial by fire that will determine not only his fate in court, but his enduring legacy in the unforgiving realm of combat sports.
As the world grappled with the shocking news of Ilia Topuria's arrest, a curious, almost surreal counter-narrative began to unfold. In a move that felt both strategically timed and utterly audacious, the combat sports landscape delivered another bombshell: the official confirmation of Jake Paul versus Francis Ngannou, a fight long rumored, often scoffed at, but now undeniably real. The announcement itself was a spectacle, a testament to the modern era of crossover boxing, where influencers and former UFC champions converge in a fusion of sport and entertainment. Jake Paul, the internet sensation turned professional boxer, whose every move is a masterclass in self-promotion, had once again defied expectations. His journey from YouTube prankster to legitimate combat sports draw has been nothing short of astonishing, punctuated by high-profile bouts against former MMA stars. Now, he was stepping into the ring with a man widely regarded as one of the most terrifying punchers in heavyweight history, Francis the Predator Ngannou. Ngannou, fresh off his own seismic departure from the UFC and a surprisingly competitive boxing debut against Tyson Fury, brought an unparalleled level of power and a global following that few fighters could match. This was not just a fight, it was an event, a cultural phenomenon designed to capture eyeballs and transcend traditional boxing demographics. The promotional materials were slick, the rhetoric bold, and the implied stakes for both men were enormous. For Paul, it was a chance to legitimize his boxing career against a truly elite, albeit inexperienced in boxing, opponent. For Ngannou, it was an opportunity to further solidify his position as a crossover star and demonstrate his evolving boxing prowess. But the timing of this colossal announcement, amidst the ongoing Topuria scandal, raised immediate and uncomfortable questions.
Was this a deliberate tactic by powerful promoters to shift the narrative, to distract from the negative press surrounding a reigning UFC champion? Or was it simply a bizarre coincidence, a serendipitous collision of two monumental stories that would irrevocably alter the landscape of combat sports? The juxtaposition was stark, one champion facing the potential end of his career in a courtroom, another pair of titans preparing to clash in a spectacle of epic proportions. The sheer contrast between the somber reality of Topuria's legal woes and the dazzling, high-octane hype of Paul versus Ngannou created a dizzying sense of cognitive dissonance. It forced the audience to confront the divergent paths of combat sports, the raw, unpredictable reality of a fighter's life outside the cage, and the meticulously orchestrated theatricality within it. This dual narrative didn't just compete for attention, it implicitly debated the very essence of what it means to be a fighter in the 21st century and where the true power now resides.
The news of Topuria's arrest and subsequent lawsuit sent immediate ripples through the UFC, placing its leadership in an unenviable position. Dana White, the famously outspoken president, found himself navigating a crisis of unprecedented scale for a reigning champion. While official statements from the UFC remained cautiously diplomatic, emphasizing due process and a wait-and-see approach, the underlying tension was palpable. Behind closed doors, the implications for Topuria's title reign, his scheduled fights, and the organization's meticulously planned calendar were undoubtedly a hot topic. Could they strip him of his belt? Would his contract be frozen? The silence from the UFC brass, typically quick to offer strong opinions, spoke volumes, indicating the complexity and sensitivity of the situation. Simultaneously, the news ignited a firestorm within the global fanbase. Social media became a battleground of opinions. Team Topuria rallied fiercely, asserting their champion's innocence, crying foul play, and condemning the sensationalism. "This is a setup. Ilia is being targeted," declared one viral tweet. They pointed to his clean record in the cage, his dedication, and the immense pressure he'd been under, suggesting he was either framed or tragically misunderstood. Others, however, were less forgiving. "A champion has a responsibility," argued critics. "This goes beyond the octagon. No one is above the law." The moral implications were dissected, debated, and often brutally judged. The fervor reached fever pitch as news of the Paul versus Ngannou fight broke, further fragmenting the discussion. For some, the crossover bout was a welcome distraction, a shiny new object to pull focus from the sordid legal drama. "Finally, some real fight news," posted one user, clearly fatigued by the scandal. For others, it was an egregious affront, a symptom of the circus element increasingly pervading combat sports, overshadowing legitimate athletic achievements. "While our champ is fighting for his freedom, these YouTubers are getting rich off novelty acts," lamented another fan, highlighting the perceived imbalance in attention and reward. Pundits and sports analysts weighed in from every angle, creating a cacophony of contrasting viewpoints. Some argued that Topuria's situation underscored the immense pressures and temptations that come with sudden fame and wealth, a cautionary tale for aspiring athletes. Others saw the Paul Ngannou fight as a necessary evolution, bringing new eyes and capital into the sport, even if it blurred traditional lines. The debate wasn't just about Topuria's guilt or innocence. It was a profound discussion about the values of the sport itself, its future direction, and the ever-shifting definition of what truly constitutes combat sports in an increasingly interconnected and commercialized world. The collective anxiety and passion demonstrated just how deeply these stories resonated, proving that while fists may fly in the octagon, the real battles for hearts and minds are often fought in the court of public opinion.
Beyond the headlines and public outcry, the cold, hard reality of legal and business ramifications began to crystallize, threatening to dismantle Ilia Topuria's empire piece by piece. Legal experts were quick to highlight the perilous position Topuria now found himself in. The aggravated assault charge, depending on jurisdiction and severity, could carry significant penalties, ranging from hefty fines and probation to substantial prison time. Even a misdemeanor conviction for assault can have catastrophic effects on a professional athlete, especially one who travels internationally, explained seasoned sports attorney Marcus Thorne. It can lead to visa denials, making it impossible to fight in key markets like the United States. For a UFC champion, that's not just an inconvenience, it's a career death sentence. The civil lawsuit for breach of contract, however, looms as an equally, if not more, financially ruinous prospect. The multi-million-dollar claim from his former associates alleges not just a simple parting of ways, but a deliberate and unlawful termination of a legally binding agreement. Professional sports contracts are ironclad for a reason, stated financial analyst Dr. Vivian Lee. They protect enormous investments made in an athlete's development and marketing. If Topuria is found liable, he could face damages totaling tens of millions, potentially forcing him into bankruptcy or a lifetime of debt. Every fight purse, every future endorsement could be garnished to satisfy the judgment. The immediate impact on his endorsement portfolio was already being felt. Major brands, meticulously cultivated over his undefeated run, began to issue statements of review or suspension of their partnerships. Sponsors, wary of associating with criminal allegations, were swiftly distancing themselves, severing lucrative ties that were integral to Topuria's earnings outside the cage. His marketability, once sky-high, was plummeting at an alarming rate. Meanwhile, the Paul versus Ngannou fight, a seemingly separate entity, carried its own intricate business ramifications. This crossover bout, an undeniable cash cow, was drawing immense pay-per-view numbers and attracting non-traditional sponsors, signaling a significant shift in the combat sports economy. While Topuria faces legal purgatory, the Paul Ngannou phenomenon is reshaping the entire financial landscape, noted sports agent Sarah Chen. It proves that compelling narratives, even if they aren't pure boxing, can generate unprecedented revenue. This puts immense pressure on traditional promoters and fighters to adapt, or risk being left behind. The contrast was stark, one fighter's career dissolving under a cascade of legal fees and lost opportunities, while others capitalized on a burgeoning market for spectacle-driven combat. The intricate web of contractual obligations, legal liabilities, and shifting market dynamics painted a clear, albeit unsettling picture. For Ilia Topuria, the fight for his reputation and freedom was only just beginning, a battle far more complex and costly than any he had faced inside the octagon.
In the volatile echo chamber of combat sports, where every major event is scrutinized and every scandal dissected, it wasn't long before the separate narratives of Topuria's arrest and the Paul/Ngannou fight began to merge into an interconnected web of speculation and conspiracy theories. The timing, for many, was simply too perfect to be coincidental. "Is Ilia being targeted?" whispered one prominent online influencer. Think about it, a champion suddenly embroiled in a massive lawsuit just as one of the biggest crossover fights in history is announced. Distraction, anyone? This theory gained traction, proposing that powerful forces within or outside the UFC might be orchestrating Topuria's downfall, or at the very least, using his misfortune to their advantage. Was it a rival promotion seeking to poach a talent or undermine the UFC's dominance? Could it be disgruntled agents or promoters seeking to send a message about contractual loyalty? The red string theory started to proliferate. Some suggested that the Paul versus Ngannou fight, with its massive draw and undeniable mainstream appeal, was a calculated diversion, a meticulously planned smokescreen to pull public attention away from the more damaging, integrity-questioning aspects of Topuria's legal battle. They want us talking about celebrity boxing, not about a champion potentially facing jail time, argued a vocal segment of the fan base, convinced of a puppet master at play. Other, more elaborate theories ventured into the realm of corporate espionage and interorganizational sabotage. Could the lawsuit itself be an engineered event designed to destabilize the featherweight division and open doors for new contenders, or perhaps even a rival star? The whispers grew louder, fueled by the opaque nature of legal proceedings and the inherently dramatic narrative of combat sports. "We've seen it before," mused a veteran boxing journalist, his voice lowered. "When big money is involved and egos clash, things can get very messy. This isn't just about a fight. It's about power, control, and who dictates the narrative." The debate escalated from simple questions of guilt or innocence to a sprawling examination of the industry's inner workings. Was Topuria merely a casualty of his own success or a pawn in a larger, unseen game? Did the Paul Ngannou spectacle represent a genuine evolution of the sport or a calculated commercialization designed to obscure deeper, more troubling truths? This interconnected web of intrigue added another layer of complexity to an already bewildering situation, ensuring that for the foreseeable future, the combat sports world would be consumed not just by the action inside the ring or cage, but by the relentless, often unsettling search for truth in a world shrouded in spectacle and suspicion. As the dust begins to settle on the initial shockwaves, the future of Ilia Topuria, and indeed a significant corner of the combat sports world, remains shrouded in profound uncertainty. The legal battles are far from over. They are merely entering their most critical and grueling phases. Topuria faces not just a single court date, but a labyrinthine journey through a complex legal system, with every verdict, every appeal, carrying monumental consequences. His championship reign hangs in the balance, a golden symbol of dominance now tarnished by the grim specter of legal jeopardy.
Will the UFC be forced to strip him of his title? Will he ever step foot in the octagon again as a free man, let alone a champion? These questions loom large, casting a long shadow over an otherwise vibrant division. Simultaneously, the audacious spectacle of Jake Paul versus Francis Ngannou charges ahead, an undeniable force of nature drawing millions of eyes. This fight, born from a different lineage, operating under different rules, promises to reshape the commercial landscape of combat sports, redefining what constitutes a main event. It represents a fork in the road, a stark contrast between the traditional athletic purity of the UFC and the burgeoning, often controversial, world of crossover entertainment. The very soul of combat sports feels fractured, pulled in opposing directions by these two colossal, yet diametrically opposed narratives. Will the legal drama surrounding Topuria ultimately expose deeper flaws within the industry, forcing a reckoning with the pressures and pitfalls of superstardom? Or will the sheer gravitational pull of entertainment, exemplified by Paul versus Ngannou, ultimately overshadow all other concerns, signaling a new era where spectacle reigns supreme? The answers are not yet written. Ilia Topuria stands at a precipice, his destiny now in the hands of judges and juries rather than his own powerful fists. The combat sports world, ever hungry for drama and spectacle, holds its collective breath, anticipating the next devastating blow, the next shocking revelation, in a narrative that transcends the boundaries of the octagon. This is more than just a story of fights. It's a saga of ambition, consequence, and the relentless, unpredictable currents that shape the lives of those who dare to step into the spotlight. The show, undeniably, must go on. But at what cost? And with what profound, lasting impact on the very essence of what it means to be a champion?